Journal entry. The separation. On the day of my departure, we were both an emotional wreck, and it was apparent that Sylvia had been right. I needed to go. As much as it would hurt, we really did need to learn how to be apart for a while. Over the past few days, we shared our thoughts, feelings, fears, and hopes. Angelo had been nervous about embracing this change between us, but I did my best to soothe his inner concerns about him being enough for me. It hurt my heart that he would worry about that, and I hoped I helped him to truly see that he was more than enough. His age didn't matter. The fact that he raised me didn't matter. He was all I ever wanted and more, much more. We talked, laughed, and were our usual selves, only nothing was the same. There was a new awareness to one another. We shared lingering looks and longing gazes. Angelo was such a beautiful man. He had always been, but now that we were open to one another, I could truly appreciate his beauty and his attractiveness. The sly grins that once charmed me now warmed and excited me, making me feel things I'd never felt before. Womanly things. Everything he did or said now affected me differently. Even holding hands and sitting together by the lake had a newness that awakened my senses and quickened my emotions. We did the same things we always did together, but now each activity was done with the knowledge that an unexpected future was before us. And now I was leaving. I felt like I was literally leaving a part of myself behind. Before we left for the airport, Angelo slipped something into my bag and told me not to open it until after I boarded the plane. I promised him I would wait. Saying goodbye to Angelo at the security gate was the hardest thing I've ever done. We held each other tightly. He buried his face in my hair, and I pressed mine against his chest, hiding my tears. I ached so much I could barely breathe. Finally drawing back, I looked up into his beautiful eyes and gently caressed his hair, burying my hands in its thick softness. I'll miss you, Angelo. And I'll miss you. He caressed my face, and I longed for him to kiss me, but I knew he would rather wait until I returned and we were alone. A few nights before, he explained to me that as much as he wanted to share a first kiss with me, he wanted to give me time. He wanted to court me, and I understood. While it may have been an old-fashioned notion to most, it was most romantic to me, and so Angelo. He caressed my face, staring into my eyes. Come back to me, amore, please. I will, I promise. I kissed the corner of his mouth, lingering a moment. Then I turned and got in line. I kept looking back, watching him watch me, until I was past security and he was no longer in sight. I kept my emotions in check until I boarded the plane and was settled in my seat. I was flying in first class, and so far no one was sitting next to me. Unable to hold back any longer, I discreetly turned my face toward the window and let the tears come. The last few days had been so amazing. Love washed over me, through me, as I thought about all we shared. Dinner and a show at the theater afterwards, a picnic lunch in the park, a fun-filled day at Universal Studios, sitting by the lake in the dark, wrapped in his arms, looking up at the stars. We had done all those things before, but this time everything was new. Being in love had changed and intensified everything. Drawing my thoughts to the present, I reached into my tote bag for a pack of tissues, and my eyes fell on the small wrapped box and envelope Angelo put there. Drying my eyes, I opened the envelope and pulled out the small note card. My dearest Katia, there are so many things I want to say to you. I hardly know where to start, but I will share with you the most important. First and foremost is that I am in love with you, il tesoro mia. You truly are my treasure, my priceless treasure, and I love you with every breath I breathe. You have been a part of me for a very long time, and I long to make make you a permanent part of me forever, but that is a question I will save until you are home again. Just know that you are in my heart, amore, and my arms will ache until you are in them again. It is your rightful place. It always has been. Yours always, Angelo. Closing my eyes, I pressed the card to my heart, wanting to brand his words there. I had spent countless hours and moments dreaming of him saying those very words to me, but those dreams paled when compared to reality. During the past week, Angelo's words had been guarded, measured. Now he had said it. He loved me. After all this time of loving him silently, to have that love returned was everything, but I still needed time to adjust to this new change in our relationship, and so did he. I just hoped I would be able to survive the separation. Placing the card back in the bag, I pulled out the box and unwrapped it, pressing a hand over my heart when I saw the actual ring box. I opened it, my vision immediately blurring as my eyes beheld the most beautiful ring I had ever seen. It was a 1-carat oval canary diamond surrounded by smaller stones and set on a diamond-studded platinum band. Taking it from the box, I placed it on my finger. It was perfect, and the perfect ring for me. Angelo knew me well. By giving me the ring, he was making a pledge and a promise, as well as fully claiming me as his. I was all right with that, because he was all I had ever wanted. Putting the box and the card back into my bag, I spotted the bottle of ibuprofen and fished it out, dumping a couple into my hand as the familiar pain that had come and gone over the past year grew more prominent. The backache and stomachache was usually manageable, and I had never felt a need to worry. But now I had a future with Angelo to look forward to, and that changed things. Alone. I passed the days and weeks by taking daily walks along the beach, JKD workouts a couple of mornings a week, ballet on the hardwood dining room floor, and playing a rented violin and cello. Every now and then, pain forced me to sit those things out, but usually it wasn't for long. Angelo and I talked every night, sometimes for hours. I loved the sound of his voice, and I always asked him where he was in the house so I could picture him there. I missed him so much, and we stayed on the phone for as long as possible. There were long moments when we didn't even speak. We just let ourselves be together, even though there were miles between us. Sitting on the beach, I stared out at the ocean, listening to the roar of the rolling waves, and as usual, thought about Angelo. We had been apart for a month. I thought being away from him would get a little easier, but that was impossible, and I was glad, even though it hurt. I welcomed that kind of hurt. But there was another kind of pain that I could no longer ignore. I had an appointment scheduled for the following day with a doctor Sylvia suggested. She had known the woman for years, and they were good friends. When I called the day before, I made Sylvia promise that she wouldn't say anything to Angelo. It may not be anything serious, and I didn't want him to worry. But to be truthful, though I was trying to remain positive, I was worried about what I would find out. What if the problem was something that affected us having children? How would Angelo take that kind of news? I knew he loved me and that it wouldn't change things between us, but it would still be disappointing not having a child of our own. Then again, we could always adopt. Chastising myself for my negative thoughts, I attempted to clear my mind. It took some doing, but I managed. However, as I knelt by my bed that night to pray, a voice whispered to my heart, "Be strong." And then and there, something inside me knew. Almost 2 weeks later, my fears were confirmed, and the doctor's words left no room for denial. That night, I cried myself to sleep, my heart breaking for Angelo and for me. "How are you today?" Angelo asked me when I called him the next day. I swallowed hard, not sure how to answer. I'm okay. You don't sound okay. What's wrong, Docesa? I need to come home early. I'm flying in tonight. Can you meet me? Of course I can. But what is it? I'll tell you when I come home. You've got me worried, babe. I'm sorry, Angelo. It's not something I want to say over the phone. I really need to wait until I see you. I tried to disguise the emotion in my voice, but it wasn't working well, and I could hear the anxiousness in his. All right. I told him my flight number and the arrival time. Angelo? Yes? I love you. I love you too. I will see you tonight. When I passed through the security area and saw Angelo, I rushed through the crowd, flinging myself into his embrace. My body trembled as he held me close, and I moved my arms from around his waist and circled his neck, clinging to him like a lifeline. His embrace tightened. I need you, Angelo, I whispered. I love you and I need you. I'm here, Angel. I love you too, and I'm here. Drawing back, I wiped my eyes. He took my hand, and we went to get my luggage. He looked at the ring on my hand and smiled. I could sense his nervousness as we walked to the car, and before getting in, I hugged him again, pressing a lingering kiss to his cheek. I appreciated his patience more than I could say. Other than declaring how much we missed each other, the ride was mostly silent. When we got home, Angelo took my luggage up to my room and I followed. We sat on the bed and he took my hands. Please tell me, Tesserina, what's wrong? Loosening one of my hands, I softly caressed his face, feeling the soft stubble. I missed doing that. Instead of answering right away, I unzipped my suitcase and removed a large yellow medical envelope and watched Angelo press a hand over his heart, his eyes moving back to mine. I've been having irregular periods for a while. How long is a while? I hesitated. For a year now. I could see the thoughts churning in his head. You could have told me, Katia. You can tell me anything. I know, and I would have, but I read that sometimes it's normal. Sometimes there has also been a little pain in my stomach and back. I read that could be normal too. And sometimes it isn't, he said gently. Did the doctors say you can't have children? I looked down for a moment. When I raised my eyes to his, tears filled them and poured down my cheeks. No. 4 little words. Stage 4, ovarian cancer. Those 4 words changed everything, and they knocked the wind out of Angelo. He pulled me to him, and I felt him trembling. He said nothing. I didn't think he could, so I talked. I told him I had already been through the test and was scheduled to go through another round the next day. When he could finally speak, his words were few. Oh, my Katia, he whispered brokenly over and over. Oh, Katia. Again, the tests were conclusive. The doctor said it was rare for a woman my age to have ovarian cancer, and because it had been growing in my body for so long, it was out of control. The cancer had spread from my ovaries to my liver and the lymph nodes in my neck and breast. Sitting in the doctor's office, we digested the prognosis. Then we had a choice to make. I could have surgery and treatments, granting me an extra month at the most, or enjoy the quality of life I had while I could. Drawing forth courage I didn't know I had, I made my choice, accepting the fact that either way, the cancer would end my life. So I chose to live my life and enjoy all the time I had left with Angelo. I would take supplements and continue to exercise for as long as I could, and when the pain worsened, I would manage it with prescription medication. Neither of us could think past that. That evening, Angelo told me he needed to be alone, and I let him go. Sitting in his favorite chair, I waited for him to come back. When he returned, His red eyes were the evidence of a good long cry. He told me he went for a drive to Cocoa Beach and walked the beach for a while. He had been angry with God. After calming down, he had apologized to God for getting angry. He said I was God's before I was his, and he had no right to be angry. That night, we lay in Angelo's bed, holding one another and crying for the shortened life we would have together as man and wife. I couldn't stand the thought of him leaving him alone, and my heart broke to think of the separation. He didn't know how he would go on without me. We had only just discovered our love, and now we had to face losing me. We cried for the children we'd secretly dreamed of, children that would never be ours, children that would have their father's eyes, his smile. They would be so beautiful. Leaving him alone without a part of me to love was a hard thing to face, and I never knew I could hurt so much. It was during this sharing of pain and sorrow that Angelo finally kissed me for the first time. The kiss started out slow and tender, as a first kiss should be, but soon raw and desperate emotion seeped into the kiss, and a burning rolled through me, spreading over my entire body as the heat of his mouth and the scent and taste of him filled my senses. I had never been kissed before, and this was all new to me. I was inexperienced in matters of intimacy and desire, but desire and passion are what I felt. The feel of his hands in my hair and on my body invoked a level of want and need that I had never imagined. I couldn't have imagined it if I tried. Being in his arms was heaven. We became lost in each other, and restraint was slipping. Exercising every bit of self-control he could muster, Angelo parted his mouth from mine and just held me against his heart. Then we fell asleep. The following day, we dried our tears and drew courage to the surface, determined to face everything head on and enjoy all the time we had left together, which meant marrying as soon as possible. And with Sylvia and Kate's help, we pulled the wedding together quickly. When the three had agreed to our request to come over that morning and we broke the news of my health, Kate had excused herself and left the room for a moment while Sylvia and Lee wept openly. When Kate returned with reddened eyes, she smiled, hugged us both, and said, "Enough of that. We've got a wedding to plan." Her blanket statement had provided us both all with a good chuckle. That week we created the invitations and got them printed and planned the reception. We bought my gown and Angelo's tux, as well as a tux for Lee, dresses for Sylvia and Kate, both of whom would be my maids of honor, and dresses for my bridesmaids. When Angelo and I called Kimberly, Allison, and Denise and told them of our plans to marry, and I had asked them to be my bridesmaids, each was a little subdued, but it didn't take long to warm to the idea of us marrying, and they were excited and supported. They had been a part of my life for years and knew us well. All three said yes to my request. Angelo planned the honeymoon and said it was a surprise. It didn't matter to me where we went. I just wanted to be with him. We spent many days by the lake holding each other. We didn't talk much, but we really didn't need to. Just the physical contact was enough. That night before the wedding, as we watched the stars slowly appear in the darkening sky, Angelo said, "I need to tell you something, Katia." "Okay." I drew back a little and looked into his eyes. His handsome face was shadowed, the distant lights from the pathway lamppost allowing me to just make out his features. "When I married Suzanne, I did love her, and I was sure we were meant to be together. But soon after we were married, the real Suzanne showed her true colors, and I knew I'd made a mistake. I was determined to keep trying and had hoped she would change. I thought that when we got you, it would prompt her to change." He paused, gazing out over the lake. "I finally realized that she had to want to change, and she didn't want it enough. but going through it all led me to you. I caressed his face, and he kissed my palm. I may have loved Suzanne, but when I compare it to what I feel for you, there is no comparison, because loving you makes me feel alive, Tesora. You make me truly feel alive in so many ways, and I ache to have you as my wife and share that love in every way. His words of love and devotion brought tears to my eyes and left me speechless, so I pressed my lips to his and let my heart do the talking.